Hello again. Welcome back. This is entry number 3 of the Beauty Journal. This one will be a little bit longer today as I'm going to be talking about several different things. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is the Artemis 2 mission. I cannot possibly comprehend how beautiful it must be to see the world, the moon, the stars, the sun from outer space. That has to be surreal. And when I talk about elevating humanity through excellence. The space program is a shining example of this. The very idea of surpassing our limitations, exploring the unknown. There's there's a romantic quality to that, a heroic quality. And I just want to take the moment here to give credit to those men and women who have contributed to our planet Earth. But I've noticed something interesting. Astronaut Victor Glover, he gave a public statement on Easter, and he made some references to God and the Bible in connection to the beauty and mystery of the universe. And that ruffled some feathers. There were some criticisms online saying, it's inappropriate, religious people shouldn't be speaking about such things on a mission that applies to everyone, believers and non-believers. Um, but I think that materialists are missing something valuable here. And I say materialists specifically and not atheists because I do know atheists that believe in transcendent values. And likewise, I know theists that hold to a materialistic framework. But here's the thing, mystery and amazement is pretty much always framed in religious language. That sense of wonder and euphoria and seeing something as majestic as the earth from space, it's going to be indescribable in materialistic terms. It's always going to feel flat, cold, inadequate. I mean, even when you hear quotes from guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Brian Cox, where they're describing us as being made of stardust, that carries an inherently transcendent spiritual quality. Because really, if we take the time to break that down, what makes stardust special? If we're merely the product of billions of years of undirected cause and effect, why should we even care? And I think that natural inclination toward desiring something transcendent exists in all of us, even if we're not giving it intellectual assent, like in the case of Tyson or Cox. Now, to add to that, I just read an article earlier this afternoon about another astronaut on the Artemis 2 mission, Reed Wiseman. Now, Wiseman is not a religious person, but he himself said what he saw from space he could not articulate within his own understanding. When they got back to Earth, he actually asked to see a chaplain, and when he saw the cross necklace on this chaplain's neck, he burst into tears. Uh, so there was something there that like he said that like humanity has not evolved to be able to fully comprehend this. So what do we do with that? Well, everything old is new again, right? Consider the names of our planets, our moons, our constellations. They all come from Greco-Roman mythology. And even though we don't believe in those pantheons or those stories, there is some value to their name because they're still pointing to something higher, something that we're striving to better understand, a quest for transcendence. You think of scientists like Newton, for example, or Galileo or Copernicus. There was something about their pursuit of scientific knowledge that they kind of, particularly Newton, if you read his writings, he actually probably wrote more religious writings than he did scientific writings, but that was sort of a form of pursuing spiritual intimacy, right? You think of it like um, when you're dating somebody for the first time, like you want to get to know them as best as you can, right? You want to ask them all these questions, know what they like. And I think for those people, science is kind of a way, like understanding the universe, understanding God's creation, we'll say, that creates some sort of intimacy with the divine, if that makes any sense. But anyway, so I have two other beautiful things to share today. So the first happened on Easter Sunday. I was driving home and I caught the most incredible sunset I've ever seen. The sun was as red as a tomato. I've never seen anything like this. I I imagine that whoever designed the Japanese flag, they saw the exact kind of sun that I saw. And if I'm honest, I was grateful. It felt like a gift. It was Resurrection Day, and I had this wonderful sun on a day for the sun. It was the highlight of my day. And so the second beautiful thing that I have to share today is a piece of music, and it's from Howard Hanson's Second Symphony, and the piece is called Romantic. Now, some of you might be familiar with this piece because parts of it were sampled for the 1979 film Alien, kind of keeping in the theme of space. I recommend listening to this whole thing. Uh, Honestly, I think this could probably be used in its entirety in another science fiction film. The beginning has this tone of a journey of exploring unfamiliar territory, venturing. The title Romantic is quite fitting. And then there's the cues that were used in Alien, which are by far the most stirring of the piece. There's this part with a horn with quiet strings behind it. There's this sense of longing that suddenly just explodes into a full orchestra before returning to a lonely quiet. And it reminds me of moments in my own life when I've been melancholy and I've just found myself just breaking down into tears for minutes. And then just by having that emotional release, I'm able to center myself back again. So listening to Romantic makes me nostalgic. I don't know of many orchestral pieces that are comparable to that. Maybe Claire de Lune, but it's a wonderful piece. I highly recommend listening to it. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep chasing beauty.